Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 160 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I'm Tanner Dislin, and as always, I am joined by Sam Godson. We are the N326 duo. Sam, how are we doing today?
Man, we are doing great. The big time college basketball tournaments kicked off. We got Big 12 on that ugly ass court. The ACC first game came down to a wire on some BS ref call. So March is literally right around the corner. I could not be happier.
Yeah, it came down to the wire and it was settled on some BS, which was really unfortunate. But, such is life. And with this many basketball games going on, but pretty exciting time. Also, not to mention, we currently have going on NFL free agency, which we will get into. Of course, college basketball is, we are, the major conferences are starting. Obviously, usually the good teams have a bye for a couple days, so they probably won't play till Thursday or Friday, depending on the conference. And then into selection Sunday this weekend. So much good stuff to talk about. So we'll start it as we always do with our winners and losers. So Sam, give me your winner.
Yeah, my winner is a guy we don't like to talk very fondly of, but he had a great take, and that is, of course, Charles Barkley of NBA on today. Couple days ago, he kind of ripped in to Kendrick Perkins and ESPN as a whole. They were talking on Inside the NBA, and I'll just give you his quote. I saw a fool idiot on TV talking about how the Lakers have saved the NBA. He's an idiot and a fool, but he knows who he is. What's his name, Shaq? Kendrick Perkins. He said the NBA saved the NBA season. That's because of them fools at the other network, which we're going to be working at next year. That's all they talk about. Let me tell y'all something. The Lakers are doing great. Got a long way to go. But the season's been great for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Y'all just want to talk about the Warriors and the Lakers. They're both doing great. Don't get me wrong. If I turn out to be wrong, I got no problem with that. But y'all are idiots because y'all talk about the Lakers and the Warriors all the time. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won 12 games straight. Oklahoma City got the MVP, and they are on fire. Y'all talking about who's in second place. That's the reason I get pissed. Oklahoma City and the Cavs have been balling for 6 months. Y'all talking about teams that had been great for 2 weeks. Had 2 great weeks. Barkley went on to take a shot at the talking heads who like to debate who is the best all-time player. I've said for years, the only people talking about LeBron and Michael is people's on TV who got no talent to talk about anything else.
Yeah. The part that always gets me is when, the take that the Lakers have saved the NBA. Like there was multiple teams had the opportunity to trade for Luka Dončić. Like it was this bidding war and the Lakers upped the price the most, and they were like, we're willing to pay the most out of anyone here and take on this burden. No, every team in the NBA, pretty much every team in the NBA would have traded for Luka Dončić in that scenario, had they had the chance to. Obviously, we know we've covered that for some reason. Only the Lakers had the chance to, which was one of the weirdest things ever. And definitely caught the eyes of the NBA's rig people. And I tell you what, it's hard to disagree with them on that front, at least for the Dončić trade. But still, I just don't get it at all. The NBA will always be it's always hype over good basketball.
Yeah.
Like it's a team will have a great possession or a team that plays really good basketball will have a great year, and the headline will always be LeBron James. It will always be Ja Morant doing this insane dunk. It'll always be whoever it is hitting a fadeaway three, and not the pick and roll that was executed perfectly and for an easy dunk. It's always gonna be what it is, and the NBA media will continue to be the worst in sports and continue to just solely talk about the same 4 teams because they are in big markets, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out Charles, man. Calling out your future bosses network is interesting play, but As y'all know, we are not the biggest Charles Barkley fan, but damn, I gotta tip the cap to him on this one for sure.
Tip that take, no doubt about it. And I mean, obviously, the only reason they got hired there is because the world threw a fit because that show is ending. So he knows he's got all the job security in the world for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. But shout out Charles Barkley, trying to call out what's wrong with NBA media. For my winner, Sam, let's just dive into NFL free agency for a minute because it was a wild couple days. On Monday at noon Eastern, that started the legal tampering period where they can actually talk, negotiate, and hammer down details on contracts. And we've got a whole bunch or at least for free agents, because I think if you were returning to your team, you could start before then. But a couple we'll hit the highlights here. Obviously, there's 1,000,006 deals we could have talked about here, but a lot of people re-signing, Sam, staying where they were. Josh Allen, he re-signed on a 6-year, $330 million contract. I believe that made him the highest paid quarterback. Myles Garrett, after all the trade talks, wanting out all this, money talks. He decided to re-sign with the Browns for $40 million a year, 4 years, $160 million total. Aaron Jones decided to re-sign with the Vikings. He will be 2-year, $20 million. Khalil Mack stayed with the Chargers for 1 year, $18 million. Chris Godwin stayed with the Bucks. And Chase Young stayed with the Saints. Those are all the people staying where they came from. But the big ones, let's start in the trade market, Sam, because I think the first domino to fall off the quarterback market, I guess that was Matt Stafford, which we talked about last episode. But the first one to change teams that started the domino effect was Geno Smith getting traded from the Raiders, or to the Raiders from the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Following Pete Carroll, I might add.
Yeah, I guess like definitely an upgrade because I couldn't even name the Raiders.
It was either Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell.
I think Aiden O'Connell played a lot because I think Minshew got hurt maybe or something. But yeah, it's not pretty.
And just now, DeAndre Hopkins went to the Ravens for what it's worth.
Yeah,
washed.
Yeah,
1 year,
unfortunately. But yeah, it's. I guess Pete Carroll wanted him and they got him. So I mean, sure. Like
I think that is the best way to put it. Sure. What the hell? Like, you're not Geno Smith away. I don't think any team is Geno Smith away from being a competitive team. That's just who he is. He's just a fine quarterback. He's better than what they have, but the team's not very good. So sure, whatever. Go be with your former head coach and Pete Carroll. But because of that, Sam, the next domino to fall was Sam Darnold, who does go to the Seahawks. They replace Geno Smith with Sam Darnold. He signed a 3-year, $100.5 million contract. What do you think on that one?
Again, like from how he played last year, and I think it was 110.5, but I could be wrong on that.
It might be more. Yeah.
But because I remember seeing that, I'm like, no. But off how he played, I'm not surprised. I just don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year. That receiving core Minnesota had is one of the best in the NFL, and I think they made Darnold look a lot better than he actually is. And I don't see this panning out well in Seattle. I mean,
yeah,
we've seen him with less talent with the Jets when he was there, with the Panthers when he was there. I just don't see this working out.
It's tough because if he was going to the Seahawks team of last year, I could get on this. He's younger than Geno Smith. I think he's a lateral move, if not better than Geno Smith. He's got crazy arm talent, and they had some pretty damn good receivers last year. Obviously, the price point is a lot. That's the going rate for a quarterback. It's just, it's just how it goes. I'm very happy the Vikings did not do this and re-sign him, and it will be officially J.J. McCarthy season in Minnesota. But I'm kind of the same way. It's like, okay, fine. But the biggest takeaway here, I think, with the Seahawks is that Sam Darnold will not be throwing to DK Metcalf, because DK Metcalf was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Upon that trade, he signed a 5-year, $150 million extension with the Steelers.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. Probably one of the most interesting moves of whatever period you want to call this free agency craziness. Considering the Steelers are having a little bit of a debacle at quarterback, they're not fully bought into Russ. Their backup just signed another deal, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a bit. There's talks of Aaron Rodgers coming into town. So what makes me think there is a deal we haven't heard, I think Aaron Rodgers might become a Steeler, because that's the only thing that makes sense of why DK would sign a 5-year. But then again, he has that former relationship with Russ. I don't know, man. But I mean, definitely George Pickens and DK Metcalf's gonna be a hell of a receiver there if they can control their egos a little bit.
I was gonna say, on the field, there's no reason why that wouldn't be one of the best 1-2 punches in football. Obviously, I chose those words specifically, 1-2 punches, because each of them are insane and known for letting their emotions get the best of them, maybe catching a few 15-yard penalties, throwing some punches, pushes. You know how it goes. So it'll definitely be a entertaining duo, but a very talented duo nonetheless, and one that should be very good on the football field, which is, to be honest with you, kind of surprised why Darnold went to Seattle. I thought after this deal, if I was Darnold and offers were similar, obviously money talks, but if Pittsburgh wanted to bring you in and you have this, obviously he's got crazy arm talent. I showed that and has always had that. It's just whether what was up here in his head that was kind of, messing with his game. I mean, they get 2 really good wide receivers down in Pittsburgh. I'm thinking, why not go there? But obviously he decided to go to Seattle. The quarterback scenario is a big issue in Pittsburgh. But for a team that's had just been the Iowa of the NFL, both in color scheme and in offensive scheme, because they have just been so bad on offense over the past few years with a good defense, and which equals an average team. So, but they did get better. So good for the Steelers. I'm looking at what else. Son Reddick went to the Bucks. He was a big piece last year with the Jets and the negotiations, but he goes to the Bucks for $14 million. Najee Harris, he leaves the Steelers to go to the Chargers. So I think Harbaugh probably will have a field day with Najee Harris.
Yeah, I like that pickup for the Chargers. Everyone has said once they get that running game, it's going to be an issue. They finally got a good, consistent running back. Let's back up those statements.
Yeah, so let's go with, I think, probably the biggest wide receiver to come off the board, Davante Adams, released by the Jets, and he goes to the Rams to fill Cooper Kupp's side of the 1-2 punch. So now it will be Davante Adams and Puka Nacua over in LA, which seems to be a pretty damn good wide receiving duo.
Yeah, I kind of love this. As much as of impact Cooper Kupp had with the Rams, he has faced a lot of injuries these past couple years. I know Davante Adams, I assume, is probably a little older. But I mean, that 1-2 punch of Puka and Davante.
He's old, but he can still play.
But it's definitely a buy-in now move with Stafford kind of getting up there in age and having a young star. And I like the move for the Rams, but
absolutely
losing a guy like Cooper Kupp's never good, but replacing him with Davante is not bad either.
Exactly. And biggest part for me in this wide receiver market, both DK Metcalf and Davante Adams off the board, neither going to the Packers, which is huge to keep them out of the NFC North. We'll continue the quarterback market. Justin Fields, obviously the former Steeler you alluded to earlier, he's going to the Jets on a 2-year, $40 million contract.
Sure. I mean, I am a big fan of Justin Fields. I think he's kind of got the short end of a stick in Chicago. He played well until Russ came back and Mike Tomlin sat him. So new area, new game. We'll see how just be it being the Jets. I don't think it's gonna pan out too terribly well, but hope he balls out. I love Justin Fields.
It's tough because the Jets, obviously, we said it like that's the reason why when I don't get Aaron Rodgers. They have loads of talent. They just do. Garrett Wilson is awesome. Brees Hall is awesome. They got guys on that defense. Obviously, they've lost some in free agency, but that team is loaded with talent. But they are loaded with dysfunction. So I wonder if if the talent will elevate Justin Fields, or will it be the same level of dysfunction as he had in Chicago, and will be a net a net zero, and will continue to play how he did in Chicago. Who knows? But it could be interesting. I mean, obviously he's got talent, first round draft pick, can move the legs. So who knows how that'll work? But to be honest with you, I think that's kind of the person who the Jets should have gone after. They're probably not going to be competing. Get a young guy who's got talent, maybe hasn't shown it. He's cheap, at least as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
He's cheap. So I don't mind this at all for the Jets. But although I'm cautioning, it's definitely not a move to go win a Super Bowl. So that's kind of why we're looking at it with apprehension. Zach Wilson went to the Dolphins. So there's that.
Great backup.
There's that in the quarterback market. Daniel Jones going to the Colts.
Yeah.
Seems like it's the last straw for Anthony Richardson. They're saying, hey, if you can't beat out Daniel Jones in camp, it's over for you. So that could be something to watch over in Indianapolis. The top cornerback, DJ Reed, he went to the Lions. So the Lions team get better in that secondary. The Lions will be a really interesting team, losing both coordinators. Obviously, still have loads of talent everywhere. So and then I can give one sentence about the Vikings. They clearly had a plan to go in and go for the big guys. They took 40% of the starting offensive line from Indianapolis. They poached over to Minnesota with their center and the guard coming over, which is huge because they desperately needed help with the offensive line. The guard they poached was Will Fries, and the center Ryan Kelly from Indianapolis. And on the defensive end, they went out and got the defensive tackle from Washington, who they released. Jonathan Allen used to be one of the best in the game. Still has some left in the tank, but definitely no longer, the force he once was. And then Javon Hargrave from San Francisco as well, kind of the same thing. So they're big boys. I love that philosophy because obviously Vikings loaded with talent. You needed to get bigger, stronger up front. They did just that. Loved all of it and re-signed Byron Murphy as well, secondary, which was huge. So I like what the Vikings are doing, and the market continues to be active.
Yeah, not for the Cowboys. They haven't done a whole lot. Javonte Williams got signed. Kevontae Turpin re-signed.
That's the thing about football, man, is that like 22 players are on the field. Unique players are on the field. No one, like basketball, obviously 5. They play offense and defense. 22 unique players are on the field. The roster's 53. People get hurt. You're constantly shuffling corners, linemen, defensive linemen in. Like, free agency goes crazy. There's so many people getting signed because the rosters are just so big.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a million people that we didn't talk about that got signed.
Yeah.
Just the nature of how it goes for sure.
Yeah. And we re-signed our long snapper, so huge.
Yes.
But
you signed your punt returner, right?
Yeah, that's Kevontae Turpin. Unreal. So a little fun fact: the last player that the Cowboys signed in free agency for over $6 million was Greg Hardy in 2015 for 11.3.
Fresh off of legal trouble.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's not great. That is not great.
Let's go. Oh, that's exactly where we wanted to.
But after that long-winded winner, Sam, let's talk about some losers. Who you got for us?
Yeah, biggest loser of the week's got to be LeBron freaking James. What a freaking bitch. I mean, going up to Stephen A. Smith and saying, keep my son's name out of the media, basically doing the whole Will Smith, like, get my wife's name out of your effing mouth. LeBron, let me take you back to March 6, 2023 at around 10:43 p.m. You tweeted, man, Bronny definitely better than some of these cats I've been watching on League Pass today. Shit, lightweight, hilarious.
First off, I would like to, before we get into that, the phrase lightweight hilarious is 10 out of 10.
Heavyweight hilarious.
from King James there. Lightweight hilarious is so good. But yes, no,
and then so you put all this pressure on your son. Do I think he's an NBA talent? No, I really don't. I think he should have stayed in college for a couple years personally, but with a name like LeBron James Jr., it's kind of tough not to be a one and done.
In fairness, though, he was not wearing number 23, so I didn't know who he was.
True. But to go up, like, did he really think like people wouldn't clown Bronny for not being worth the shit in the NBA? Yeah, you had to see this one coming.
If your boy got drafted because he was your son and you didn't go up and say you need to draft my son, and then you took the fire on him because it was your son, and then he got clowned on from not being an NBA talent, I could see why you'd be mad. First off, he's a parent. I get it. But saying he's better than half the people in the league and then saying, wow, why are you making fun of my son? That's just insane. That's just insane. I get it. He's your son. In parenthood, you just defend your son. I get it. But, man. And then on top of it, the groin injury.
Yeah.
The groin injury, the flop on the offensive foul against. I mean, we all have seen the LeBron flopping clips, but there was another pretty bad one. It's not been a good week for LeBron, and that's tough.
Yeah, that's tough. Total bitch move by Bron, but not the first bitch move from Bron we've seen for sure.
Yeah, in summary, we're saying we get you want to defend your son. You're the one that brought it up.
Yeah,
big dog.
Exactly.
It's the Tim Robinson in the hot dog suit with the hot dog truck that drove through the store. He's like, we're all trying to find the guy who did this because it was you, Mr. LeBron. It was you.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. But Sam, for my loser, I've got a twofer for the people. Should have put my take on that. But the first one, of course, the more serious one. Before I had a loser. Of injuries in spring training, because injuries suck, obviously, and they seem to be hitting the city of New York a little bit harder. A couple of the Mets guys went down with injuries on their rotation, and then obviously Stanton, which now we got an update that everything's looking that it's severe. He's looking at surgery as a potential option on both elbows, and if he does, he'll be out for the year. Luis Gil for the Yankees went out, former Rookie of the Year, key piece in that rotation. And then the piece in that rotation, Gerrit Cole, one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not turns out he is having Tommy John, and he will be out for the entire season. So that is a huge blow to the Yankees. They go to the World Series. They kind of get embarrassed by the Dodgers, fall apart. They lose Juan Soto to the Mets, their crosstown rival, their little brother, lose Gerrit Cole to season ending. Tommy John surgery. It's a really tough stretch for Yankee fans. So you just hate to see stuff like that.
Yeah, man. So sad.
You just hate to see it. But Sam, sticking with the baseball theme, my other loser. Have you seen these new MLB hats?
They're fire.
They are some of the funniest things I've ever seen. So the new era in the MLB decided to come out with a new line of hats. I understand the premise. It's the
I don't even know if I understand the look.
Why? Some of these look kind of cool. Like if I was a Royals fan, I think that one looks kind of cool. But it's the hat logo, like the team's main logo that they wear on their hats, and then behind it is the team's word mark, behind it, and in front of it prominently is the logo. Problem with baseball though is that logos for baseball are like 90% letters, so it's just letters on top of letters. And some of them they didn't work out too well. Some of the funnier ones, like Boston's, the B is covering the S and the T, so it just says Bobon.
Big fans of Bobon.
Just says Bobon. I got them pulled up here if you want to take a look with me. There's Bobon. Like the Padres, the SD covers DNR, so it just says Pastes. Miami's great. Look at that. The logo, the M logo just covers like all the letters in between, so it just says MMMI. But a couple of them aren't all that bad. Like the Twins one's okay. I do kind of like the Mets one. I do like the Royals. But the big missteps, Sam, the Rangers. The T covers the X, and it just says Titas. Now I highly recommend all of you go and search go to Google Translate and go from Spanish to English and type in Titas and let me know what it says. The Angels, the A covers the G in Angels. So it just says ANAELS. Again, that is ANAELS. I will let you, in your mind, try and pronounce what that would look like. The Astros, the H from Houston covers the T and the R. So it says ASHOS, which says Assos. Then we have me from Miami. The Fippies in Philly.
That's fire.
The L's are covered by the P's, so it says Fippies. The Past Days is another good one. Yeah. The Diamondbacks, the Z in Arizona is covered by A, so it just says Ariana.
Dude, big Ariana Grande.
This is Ariana. So seems like a big misstep from the MLB. They didn't really think that one through. Some of these are tough.
Yeah,
I will say though, the Mets one I don't hate. But
unfortunately, Tanner, they've taken the Angels, the Rangers, and the Astros off their website.
Boo!
Yeah, dude, let's be assholes.
Not for the people.
Not for the people.
That's an asshole move right there.
That's an asshole move for sure.
But yeah, I encourage everyone to look up the MLB Overlap Hats because they made some mistakes on that one for sure. But kind of funny. I
like the Dodgers one, the Delades. It's good.
Let me pick. I just closed. Let me take a look real quick. The Dodgers. Dollars. Like the Cardinals. Carstonals.
The Pit
Novels. The Nationals. The W covers the TION, so it just says Nawals.
Cincinnati. The Chicago.
Cincinnati.
The Cubs one ain't bad.
The Cubs one, the C just covers the other C, so it just says Chicago.
The Massers. The Massiers. It's good.
Yeah. The Massers. Athlastics.
That's good. Garkians. Dude, nailed.
The Braves. These are great. These are awesome.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
You say the Cocado Rorys.
Good. The MLB just like merch has just been,
they butcher everything when it comes to marketing. They butcher everything. They have all these events that they tweet about it and they're like, did you know what's happening tonight? We didn't know that was happening tonight. They're so bad at marketing their stuff. We all know the blackouts is absolutely horrible. Stuff like this with their merch drops all the time where it's just like, what were you thinking? Well, a while ago they had you remember the ass hat?
Yeah.
With the A's, it was like a multiple logo thing, but if you think about A's logo, big A, small S, they had moved it so the main one was on the right, and then the one behind it was on the left, and the one behind it was on the right. So the big A was covered. So but the small S, the extra small S was there, so it just said ass on the hat.
I respect it. That's kind of right.
It just said ass. And obviously we all know what the jerseys were last year with
Is it Fanatics?
Yeah, which they fixed that this year. The fonts.
It only took them 160 something.
Yeah, it took them a full ass year. But I don't know. I guess I don't know about the you know how like you tucked in part of your jersey could be see through. I don't know if the pants are still see through. But I do know the font on the last names are bigger.
Progress.
Last year we had things where like I know the Mets in particular, everyone's like, "Hey, where are those? Why haven't they worn their alternate jerseys yet?" It's because they hadn't gotten them from Fanatics yet. They actually hadn't made the alternate jerseys by the time the season started. So
why would they?
Yeah, really rough from Fanatics. So all of that is just like the MLB continues to misstep with their marketing over and over and over again. But shout out the MLB for some funny hats
for sure.
But you ready to talk some college ball?
You know I am, Taylor.
Because we are entering the most important time of the year. Of course, conference tournament championship or conference tournaments are going on. A couple tournaments have wrapped up. We will cover the auto bids in a minute. But before we get to all that, let's cover a pretty impactful weekend, Sam, because there were some big-time games. We'll start over in the Big East. The Big East champions, the runaway Big East champions of the regular season, St. John's. They go into Marquette and they win on a buzzer beater.
Yeah, this weekend was a weekend that didn't feel like there's going to be much impact. There's some awesome matchups on paper, but end of a season going into conference tourney week, we didn't expect it to be awesome. But kicking it off with St. John's versus Marquette, ending on a buzzer beater, it doesn't get much better than that, man. It was St. John's is rolling, even though it's ugly every time. They're getting dubs after dubs, and Rick Pitino has his boys ready for the madness of March for sure.
St. John's team, man. I might have to go back to my NY roots a little bit and adopt the St. John's team as my team for March. They're fun, man. Rick Pitino's fun. St. John's is fun. The team's good. I don't know. I think I might do it. Screw it. But St. John's with a big time win, and another one, the formula this year, they shot 22% from three this game. Marquette shot 35%. And they just find ways to win. That's what they just do. And we all know what Rick Pitino can do with teams that don't shoot well. The stunner of the weekend, Sam, Penn State goes into Madison and they take down Wisconsin. Wisconsin now building up a resume of head scratching losses.
Yeah, absolutely. This is 100% one. Penn State, not even in the Big Ten tournament, haven't won in Madison in over 30 years. Walk in, get a giant W, kind of end the season on a high note. And then Wisconsin, a lot of concerns going into this Big Ten tournament. They're kind of limping into this one. Dončić hasn't been the player we've seen in the past couple weeks. A lot of confusion, like what happened to this Wisconsin team. They're kind of slipping at the worst possible time, but huge win for Penn State. Unfortunately, they don't get to play much after.
Yeah, it's weird. Just the two losses. I mean, losing to Oregon at home and then Penn State at home, both within the past month, is definitely head scratching. But like in between, they got a nice win at Minnesota, on the road. They did go to Michigan State and lose, but a lot of teams go to Michigan State and lose. I'm not knocking them for that. It was somewhat of a close game. They lost by 9. It was back and forth. So they didn't get blown out. So, but it's just those two losses at home, man. They are head scratching for sure. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Wisconsin does now going into the Big Ten tournament. They will play on Thursday, which is today, date of release. So we'll see how they do. Obviously, we don't know their opponent yet until Wednesday. But definitely a head scratching one for Wisconsin. The big game of the weekend, Sam, did not disappoint. It didn't disappoint in Auburn, in Tuscaloosa, and now it doesn't disappoint in Auburn as Bama goes to Auburn and gets a win in overtime on Marcus Sears' buzzer beater.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a little red flag for Auburn, man. They're kind of like Wisconsin, a little more dramatic, obviously being the 1 seed. Um, definitely cause for concern. Don't get me wrong, Alabama's a great team, but I mean, they're just kind of limping through the end of the season. I think they've lost 2 in a row now. Um, definitely cause for concern. I mean, they were a couple months ago, they were no ifs, ands, or buts the number one team in the country. I think they're starting to be a lot of questions surrounding this team. Chad Baker, Mazar, having a costly flagrant two. Personally, I don't think it was cause for flagrant two, but it is what it is. It's part of the game. Crappy refs. But Bama, on the other hand, oh my god, Marcus Sears didn't really have his best game. I can't remember their big man.
Cliff
Oh,
Amore.
No, some Griffin, I think is his last name.
Oh, you're talking about Grant Nelson?
Grant Nelson.
Yeah.
Thank you. That dude
Yeah,
put on an absolute clinic. Probably should have gotten teed up for the celebration after yamming on the dude's head. But hey, it's college basketball, and that's why this sport's best. But huge win for Bama. If you're Auburn, you're kicking yourself. That it wasn't an overcomplicated play. It's a simple screen to his strong side, and he's hit how many of those throughout the season. Definitely concerns for me going into this gauntlet of an SEC tournament with Auburn, but huge win for Bama.
Yeah, losing 2 in a row definitely is not ideal for Auburn. I mean, those 2 losses, as you know, we just got done talking to Wisconsin, losing at Oregon, losing to Oregon at home, losing to Penn State at home. These 2 losses from Auburn are nowhere near as bad as those two. No. It is worth saying, obviously, losing to Texas A&M with the fastest old takes exposed of all time for your boy on with my take on Texas A&M. I'm still not buying them, but they did get the big win at home over Auburn. So, like, it's definitely cause for some concern. Definitely nowhere near the panic button. Alabama's a top 10 team, and I'd argue top 5. And no panic button, but definitely we probably should have won that for sure. So yeah, big time win for Alabama as they try and push that into the SEC tournament, which is going to be absolutely insane. And then the nightcap, the one that normally is must see TV. Obviously, UNC putting together a pretty rough season thus far, and they had to they played Duke at home, and they stuck with them for a while. But Cooper Flag and the Duke Blue Devils were just too much, and they win 82-69 in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, this game was competitive to start. Cooper Flag got in some early foul trouble. It was obviously a cause for concern. You lose your best player, you expect a little bit of a drop off, but not in Duke's case. RJ Davis and the guards of North Carolina just came out scorching hot, kept the game competitive, but once it got later in the game, Cooper Flag got back on the court and it was over. This is a good win for Duke, man. They've shown multiple ways that they can win. As good as Cooper Flag is, he was in foul trouble, like I said. They still be a huge time rival, and got it done without a great historic performance from their freshmen. So this is a big statement win. I know UNC is not where they normally are at this point in March, but this showed me a lot about this Duke basketball team heading into the big dance.
Yeah, I mean they're second in the country in defensive efficiency. Like, this team just doesn't have holes. Like you said, wasn't a big night for their all player of the year candidate freshman. Still scored 80 plus, held their opponent to under 70 points. That's just the Duke formula. They're deep and they don't really have holes. So they're a real tough team to beat. And they're heading momentum into the ACC tournament, which obviously we've talked at length how the ACC is not a very good basketball conference this year. So Not that they needed much momentum going into that. I think it should be theirs to handle pretty comfortably. And then on Sunday we had a big one locally for the Des Moines area. Drake taking down Bradley, winning the Missouri Valley Conference in that auto bid. What a first season! What a first season for Drake under new head coach.
Yeah, Ben McCollum. What a year. He's a certified winner. Came from Northwest Missouri State. He's coached there for 15 years. Never lost over 100. He lost 93 games, I want to say, during his tenure there. Absolute stud. Drake
6.2 losses.
There's
season, by the way, which is insane.
There's been a lot of talk about this team being a problem, being the potential Cinderella story of March Madness, and seeing their run through this conference tournament, how they performed against Bradley, who could be, if this was a bigger conference, would probably be going to the big dance. But Drake just manhandled them in that second half, and
48 points.
Could be a name to keep an eye out for when the bracket comes out on Sunday for sure.
No doubt. Obviously, they were commonly a hot name under DeVries. Never was really able to get anything out of that. So maybe, obviously, McCollum has no shortage of championships under his belt. So maybe he can ride that for sure into a successful run in March. But the auto bid for Drake getting punched. Obviously, you mentioned Bradley. It seems like with that loss, unfortunately, they don't make the tournament. The Missouri Valley has been a conference that has continuously gotten screwed by the small conference. And to be honest with you, I think if I would be open to hearing an argument for expanding the NCAA tournament if they were guaranteed to include more at-large for group of 5 teams. Sadly, we all know that's not going to be the case. They would open it up to find a way to put in a team like UNC from this year, who just simply put is not a tournament team, and we all know that would happen. So that sucks. But some other auto bids punched from their conference tournament wins. We got in the ASUN. Lipscomb is going to the dance. Big South, High Point won that conference. Obviously, we covered Drake in the Missouri Valley. In the Ohio Valley, we've got SIUE, which is Southern Illinois, going to the tournament. In the Southern Conference, we got Wofford winning their tournament. In the Summit League, we've got the University of Nebraska at Omaha. A lot of family members graduated from that university. So shout out the Mavericks. They're going to the big dance, I believe, for the first time. And then in the Sun Belt, we've got Troy with the auto bid. We've got a couple championships going on as we are recording. In the Horizon League, we've got Robert Morris versus Youngstown State currently going on. That is a close game, 4-point game, almost to halftime. Will Wade and his McNeese State team, they are up big on Northwestern State in the Southland championship. And then
semifinal.
Or excuse me, that's in the semifinal. And then in the NEC, the Northeast Conference, we've got St. Francis and Central Connecticut going on. So, and then in the CAA, we've got UNC Wilmington and Delaware. So more tickets to be punched momentarily.
Yes, sir.
But we've got the big conferences. Should we hop into those before they start here? I think that would be the good way to go. We'll start in the ACC. The ACC bracket. Sam, anything stand out to you?
I mean, this could be the easiest walk in the park for Duke. I don't see them losing. I don't even see them having trouble in this tournament. I think the 4 seed that they could potentially meet up in the semifinals is Wake Forest, who they just beat by like 30. Clemson could give them a run for money. I think it could be a little revenge game. I got Duke here. I think Duke is by far and away the best team in this conference, best team in the country. Duke is the real deal this year for sure.
No doubt about it. I mean, you mentioned that Wake Forest. I mean, they're on the bubble. So yeah, that's definitely not the strongest conference. Don't have too much to add there. We'll jump over to the Big 12 because some interesting things can go on over in the Big 12. And anything stand out to you there?
Yeah, this is gonna be a freaking awesome tournament. Unfortunately, their court is absolute trash. Not the worst though, according even though some people are saying it by far not the worst. But I mean, this tournament is going to be very interesting. Iowa State could potentially get a rematch with BYU that spoiled Iowa State's um, senior night at Hilton. West Virginia, we all know their tough and grittiness. They could give Houston. Houston has a pretty tough road to get to that championship game. They got to go through a potential West Virginia and then either BYU or Iowa State. That's not an easy task. And then on the southern half of the bracket, Texas Tech. We all know the story surrounding JT Toppin. I believe he actually won Big 12 Player of the Year. Absolute stud. Arizona being a 3 seed, I have zero faith in them. We all know the story surrounding Caleb Love and that team. Caleb Love isn't the most consistent player. That's something you don't want to see in March. I don't have very high faith. But that's a potential semifinal of Iowa State, Houston. They faced off earlier in the season. Iowa State was without two of their best players. Seeing that rematch is going to be awesome. But there could be some upsets in this one. I believe Colorado already upset TCU 16-9. So there could be some shockers in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Arizona lose early in this tournament. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see Texas Tech drop one. But it's going to be a fun tournament, one of the most interesting ones coming up. So stay tuned for that, man. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with your take. I mean, the top half of that bracket seems to be a gauntlet. Iowa State at the 5, BYU obviously, leaping them and being the 4, and on the south side some streaky players as you mentioned. So definitely something to look out for in the Big 12. But yeah, I mean a couple of those juggernauts once we get to quarterfinal, semifinal, and final time should be some pretty awesome matchups. Heading over to the Big East, Sam, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, this conference has been very interesting all season. Obviously, it's highlighted by St. John's, Red Storm, Rick Pitino, their lack of offense, but still getting it done week in, week out, game by game. But we also have a lot of other storylines. Cam Jones of the Marquette Golden Eagles being one of the best players in the country. Unfortunately, he has little to no help. Creighton could be a very interesting team. A lot of conversation not talking about the Blue Jays of Creighton. Brought back a lot of guys from last year. Could be interesting seeing where they're going. And then, of course, we got to talk about Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies. Everyone's counting them out. They're not the team of the past 2 years. A lot of people not expecting them to be three-peat, but that is just what could happen. UConn, this tournament could be very interesting. You get St. John's on a cold streak offensively, not hitting anything, and wearing that defense down. It could mean trouble for the Red Storm. So being on the lookout for that, that's a huge storyline. But with Rick Pitino at the helm, he's going to have his boys ready, and it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, Creighton very silently the number 2 seed in that tournament. Not much talk about them throughout the season. They're flirting in the top 25, been in there, been out. You mentioned UConn, absolutely. Marquette and Xavier in that middle spot. Xavier, I don't know if I've heard a peep about from them all year long from any sort of media. So definitely some interesting sleepers going on in the Big East. But as you said, it seems throughout the entirety of the season, or at least most of the season, that this was this was St. John's to lose, and some other teams looking to dethrone them could have a few good games in there. But yeah, not somewhat of a we have a clear favorite in the Big East. Let's just say that, and but some other teams can make some noise for sure. But let's open up and talk about the Big Ten, Sam. Anything sticking out to you from there?
I mean, Iowa at the 15 seed, man.
Yeah. Big win against Nebraska on Sunday.
Yeah.
Good for them. Good for them. The team, obviously, we've talked how they're not really all that talented. They've played hard. They've played hard throughout the year. They deserve that win, and good for them. So
yeah, unfortunately, that's all they're gonna do in Big Ten. I don't see them being Ohio State. The Ohio State was a bubble team down the stretch. I think they're gonna unfortunately take care of the Hawks. But this could be a very interesting Big Ten. I think Michigan State is the best team in this conference. I know they're number one. You're probably like, no shit, Sam. But that team down the stretch, seeing what they did to Iowa, I know I was nothing to brag about. Just absolutely manhandled them. Went on like a 31-8 run after Trey Holloman just manhandled Brock Harding and Peyton Sanford. And then what they did to Michigan when they basically were playing for nothing, really. They had the Big Ten regular season title clinched up, and they beat the shit out of Michigan. But it's gonna be interesting. I think Michigan State's gonna come out of this on top. With Wisconsin, not we already talked about them limping in. Maryland and Michigan could be a very interesting matchup in the semifinals. But I'm hoping that happens, but who knows with it being March. And frankly, this conference, it's throughout the season, I've kind of had the story of where we are good basketball teams, but it seems nobody wants the crown. Obviously, down the stretch, it seems the Spartans have claimed that crown. But seeing these other teams like Maryland, Michigan, UCLA, and Wisconsin, Purdue, even dropping down to that 6th seed, there can be some shakeups in this conference tournament for sure. Because after Michigan State, I don't think there's a whole lot of dominant teams in this conference.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then you got the Big Ten Player of the Year lurking there at that 6th seed in Purdue. Obviously a team that hasn't had much. They've had somewhat of a tough year for Purdue standards, but they obviously got some real talent there as well, up and down. Should be an interesting tournament. One that, again, like you said, maybe doesn't come off this page like the SEC or the Big 12 does in names, but could be sneaky good for sure across the board. UCLA sneaking into that 4 seed, rather interesting for sure. And then lastly, the big one, the SEC. Oh boy, just every time we say it every time, but you look at it again, and you're like, holy crap, is this conference stacked?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be absolute chaos. I'm no idea what's going to happen. I mean, literally anything can happen in this. I think Texas A&M's got a shot. I think Missouri's got a shot. I don't think Kentucky has a shot. But, I mean, 1 through it, literally anybody can walk away. Teams I don't think are going to win. Georgia, LSU, Texas, and South Carolina. Don't think they're going to win, but I honestly think
I'll add Oklahoma in there. I don't think Oklahoma's gonna win.
But I mean, you're talking 12 and up you wouldn't. You'd be surprised, but not like, holy shit! How
exactly.
did it's
you
not
can
like
legitimately make a case certainly 1 through 9, if not more.
Yeah,
can go out and win this freaking thing.
absolutely, dude. It's gonna be absolute chaos. It's gonna be interesting what Auburn does here because I think they are that would lock at the number 1 overall seed, seeing if they've
got the regular season title. They've got the number 1 over. Maybe not number 1 overall, but they have a number 1 seed locked up. Right. How much do they go for that tournament championship? Definitely some interesting stuff. We had kind of a conversation maybe 2 weeks ago about stock and conference winners and how exactly that lines up. But yeah, holy smokes! I mean, Alabama, the potential of Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, in that semifinal is absurd. You don't like that? That's all right. You can have Kentucky in there. You can have Missouri in there. You can have A&M in there. You can have Ole Miss in there. 1 through 8, 1 through 9. Arkansas, one of the hotter teams down the stretch in the conference.
Yeah,
we all saw the coach, the Cal quote, the put us in the coffin, forgot to put the nails in.
Hard.
That shit was hard. It was hard as hell. Teams that got all the talent in the world playing great ball. They're coming in at that 9 seed. You telling me they can't make a run at this thing? I think they could. Obviously, we just talked about 1 through 9 being able to win it. So unbelievably stacked, should be unbelievable theater. So get your popcorn ready. Get your popcorn ready for sure. But Sam, I'll put you on the spot. Before we get to this or that and wrap up the episode, I need the 5 winners from these 5 major conferences in their tournament.
All right. ACC, I'll kick off. No ifs, ands, or buts. I got Duke there. I think they're the best team in college basketball this year. And I think that gap is even greater in the ACC. The Big 12, this one's super interesting. To be all chalk. Oh, man. Give me Iowa State. I think when they're at the healthiest, I do think they are a top 5 team in the country. They're finally all healthy. Keyshawn Gilbert has been battling injuries down the stretch, got much needed rest. And I think just the stretch Houston has to go to get in that championship is going to be a rough one. And I don't know how hard they're going to be playing. I think they have a lock at a 1 seed, no matter what happens in the Big 12. Big East, I got St. John's. I know a lot of concern with their scoring ability, but I think there's just too many flaws in the other teams. Creighton is a little flashing light looking in my eye, but I just like Rick Pitino in this Red Storm a little too much. Big Ten, not gonna overthink this one. Give me Michigan State, and then the SEC, Tanner. I'm gonna go with Florida here, Tanner. Again, I just have a lot of flaws with Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama obviously not playing a whole lot of defense, just wanting to score, and then on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, all defense, no offense. A little concerning for that. I like Florida here, man. I think they're one of the underrated teams of this season, and I think this could be a huge statement tournament win for the Gators down the stretch. And I also think they have a lot to play for. They could, if they win this SEC tournament, they could be a 1 seed. So they have a lot to play for down the stretch, and it's going to be that tournament's just going to be the freaking best, man.
No doubt about it. That's tough because I had mine picked out. And there were some similar ones. I'm not going to lie. But so in the ACC, 100%, no reason to overthink it. None at all. Duke's going to win that. So I'm going with Duke in the ACC. In the Big 12, this one's an interesting one. the one thing about Iowa State, they always play well in the Big 12 tournament. Kansas City's not too far from Ames. Fans travel well. They always play well in the Big 12 tournament. I remember the last year when they kicked the living crap out of Houston, took over, announced themselves as one of the top teams in the nation last year, seemingly at that moment. But I tell you what, I don't want to go all chalk either. To me, I think Houston is a team that's built for the March Madness tournament, and I don't know kind of the Auburn treatment where it's like, they might not. I don't want to say that they're not going to care, but
Yeah.
I think a team in there, a talented team, I think has the chance to get hot with a star player and a team that I think will do whatever they can to win to try and improve their tournament seed is Texas Tech. And we talked about how that South portion of the bracket may have not been as hard as the top. So give me Texas Tech. I think that's a team, like I said, that should just get hot and ride that wave. In the Big East, I'm going to agree with you with St. John's. I think they're the best team, and I think they get it done. In the Big Ten, now this is a real interesting one because I think I am going to overthink it, and I probably did overthink it but the Big Ten is. You have all these runs from all these other teams. Now it could be just because we're Iowa fans. I was in the Big Ten. I watch it with the most intrigue, but it seems like the Big Ten year after year always has the head scratcher. Like obviously this wasn't the Big Ten, but your NC States of last year, where it's like, how the heck did they win that? Big Ten has a lot of those. Obviously, what comes to mind, Iowa going on that run. A few years ago, Ohio State did and found themselves with a 2 seed in the tournament because of their run. They went on in the conference tournament. Of course, they lost that first game. They didn't win the conference tournament, but they went to overtime, I believe, against Purdue in that game. So, and for me, the team that is ripe, again, the Texas Tech theory, star player can get hot. And college basketball makes no sense, specifically in the Big Ten. Give me the team we just talked about having the worst loss of the weekend, Wisconsin. That's my college basketball makes no sense pick of a winner. And then in the SEC, I agree with you on Auburn, but I just think they're the best team. So I'm going to pick them. And I think in a rematch with Alabama, I lean Auburn. And Florida, definitely. I thought about Florida, but I think I was going to go Auburn or Florida, so I'll just go with Auburn. And those are my winners.
There you go.
So, but to wrap up the episode before next week, of course, we will have a special guest for the bracket episode, the tournament episode for sure. That special guest, recurring guest, Eric Gotze, of course. But to wrap up this episode, we're going to do some this or that. So, Sam, we'll start out. Would you rather have Curry's shooting or Kyrie's handles?
Man, this is a tough one, Tanner. I'm going to go Curry shooting here because I think he has similar handles to Kyrie and is just that much better of a shooter. So I'm going Curry here.
I'm going Curry shooting too. Like it's Kyrie's handles are insane. I feel like rarely are we having the conversation of like, who is the best handles of all time?
Yeah,
we're having we all know who's the best shooter of all time, and it's
Klay Thompson.
Yeah, Klay Thompson. Yeah, but yeah, I mean Curry's the best shooter of all time, and that what he's able to do is insane. Obviously, the 50-point games on the Twitter timeline definitely don't hurt that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Curry's shooting as well. But Sam, now I know if I know anything about you, I know this one is going to be really tough. Prime Derrick Rose or prime Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, dude. This is probably the hardest one yet. So it's either the guy who kind of started my love for basketball, my favorite player growing up, to my favorite player, the guy who like take that love of basketball to the next level on my favorite team.
I honestly have no idea where you're gonna go with this.
I think I have to go. It's so damn close, but I think I'm gonna give it to Russ. Just what he's done for the Thunder. And I think what makes me choose Westbrook is damn near the whole team left, and he decided to stick around, grind it out, Mr. Triple Double.
brought to the playoffs.
Brought him to the playoffs. I mean, he's the best. I know a lot of people hate him. I love him. So it's freaking close, but give me Westbrook here.
They were, I mean, their primes very similar
Very
players,
similar.
freak athletes, obviously great players. May not be as far as, not the knockdown shooter, but, like you said, freak athletes, insane off the bounce, good defenders. They, played the game hard.
110 percent effort.
Yeah, 110% effort. And obviously in Rose's case, that plus Tom Thibodeau equals multiple injuries.
Who I thought.
It's tough for me to, obviously I don't have the same love for these players as you do,
Yeah.
but they were both really freaking good.
Yeah.
Both won MVP. I think I'm just gonna do the cheap answer, and just to be different, I'm gonna go D Rose because I literally don't have a separator. I just don't. I think I mean Westbrook played with the better players in his career, but I mean I'd say his prime was probably after they left.
Right? Yeah.
When he turned to the MVP player and Mr. Triple Double. I mean, he was already getting triple doubles, but he became Mr. Triple Double after they left. So I'm gonna go with D Rose just because I want to be different. But man, these two were very similar players, and they seem to be almost forgotten because of their. I don't know, when you think of point guard, you think of good handles, good shooter, and these guys weren't necessarily that. They were great athletes.
Yeah,
like you said, 110 effort. And heart and souls of their team. But Sam, would you rather start a team with Luka Dončić or Jayson Tatum?
Give me fat boy Luka. No influence or butts, dude. I mean, I personally don't think this is that close. So give me Luka here.
Interesting. I didn't think. I guess I didn't think it was going to be that easy. Just off the dome like that. I mean, I think Luka is a better basketball player, certainly a better offensive player than Jayson Tatum. Tatum's a better defender. Tatum has had the better teams. When I'm starting an NBA franchise, I think my team is going to be horrible.
It's true.
I think one of these two can put a team fully squarely on their back, lead them in the postseason. And that's Luka Dončić. He's done it in the past with Mavericks teams. Obviously, when they went out and got Kyrie last year, that pushed them over the edge to the finals. If I was looking at a team, I think Tatum is a perfect complement superstar because obviously he's very good. He'll get his points, but he's good. He's a good defender, and he's a good rebounder. Obviously, if you can keep his mom shut, but the playing time and all that extra stuff. I think that's why I think he's the perfect fit for the Celtics. He's fine, around the edges, sharing the ball with Jaylen Brown. But if I'm starting a new team, I'm taking Dončić.
Mark Cuban literally said, if I had to choose between my wife or keeping Luka on the Mavs, catch me at my lawyer's office prepping for a divorce.
Yeah, it's just. It is what it is. And Luka's, I'm taking Luka. I think, and obviously you are as well. Yeah. But would you rather have courtside seats for Game 7 of the NBA Finals or lifetime season tickets for my favorite team?
See, this one, because obviously the only time I start to watch it, the NBA is down the stretch in the playoffs. But also, if I had lifetime season tickets, I feel like I'd become a pretty damn big fan regardless. So, give me the season tickets. Just because it's favorite team, and yeah, I'd like to have courtside season tickets over courtside seats for one game, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah,
game 7 intensities, it's different.
the volume is rather incomparable. Lifetime and then one game. I agree. The game 7 makes it tough. Like it will be. Obviously, it will be. But with your favorite team, I care like not the obviously we've talked about the NBA and how we feel about it and how the playoffs are much better, but kind of as like I think I mentioned this fact on the podcast, but last year's NBA Finals, granted they were not close, they had no chance of going 7, but they were never on my main screen of the TV. They were always on the small TV, and like I just care so much more. And always like when the Knicks are eliminated, like my care for the NBA playoffs definitely goes down.
Yeah.
So I'm also, I mean, it's my favorite team. Also, I know what Knicks tickets sell for. So being able, games I don't go, being able to sell them, I would want that for the rest of my life. But
Yeah.
So I'm going with the season tickets as well. And then to wrap it up, better sports rivalry, Lakers Celtics or Duke UNC.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
I will say, I think for me, this one's not
For
close.
Yeah. I know
Especially
they're two historic rivalries, but I'm taking Duke UNC.
I think I'm personally.
I just think it's college sports rivalries are way more intensified, I think is the word I'm trying to use, in college sports to pro, and that's why I'm giving it to Duke UNC.
Now I could be old Tays exposed here because I think a while back we did a Give Me 5 of the sports rivalries, but I'm putting Duke UNC right now. If you had to ask me, it is my number 1 in sports.
Yeah,
there is not much pure hate in professional sports will never reach the levels as pure hate in college.
Yeah.
You have deeper connections to your college team than you do with your pro team. That's just facts. You went there, your family member went there, you knew what it was like to be a student there and hate people who were a student at the other place. And Duke UNC, 8 miles. They are so similar in everything. They're good academic schools. Their football, other sports programs, a lot of the time are lacking. They are all about basketball. They are both blue bloods. Even just seeing their jerseys on the same floor, the dark blue, the light blue, the black of Duke, the light blue and white of UNC, the Blue Devil versus the Tar Heel. It almost looked like dark and light side. Like it's just absolute cinema. And growing up, I mean, I feel like it was the golden age growing up with trading national championships.
Yeah.
JJ Redick to John Shire to your Tatums, your Kyries on the Duke side. UNC, you obviously had the Tyler Hansbrough breaking his nose, your Ty Lawsons. Then you move on to the
Harrison Barnes,
Marcus Page,
Justin Jackson, what's that name?
Kendall
Marshall.
Thank you, Kendall Marshall, Joel Berry, and then to the current day RJ David. Like it's just so good. To me, there is no topping Duke and UNC as the rivalry. And I remember, dude, as a kid, granted, as a kid, kind of how you were with Oregon football and how like your non-Iowa college team that you liked because Iowa never really had a chance of winning the title.
Yeah.
For me, that was UNC basketball. And for my brother, it was Duke basketball. So when they played, it was all out war in my house. And I remember when they played, like I used to be terrified all day long about how the Duke UNC not being able to wait until that game. It's just, forever will be the number 1 rivalry in sports for me. So I'm clearly going Duke UNC, and especially for someone our age. I mean, Lakers Celtics, like they met in the finals at least once, maybe twice in our life. But like, okay, it's just It was. I'm sure if someone old like with the Magic Bird stuff, I'm sure someone will probably say Lakers Celtics, but for me, it's close.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is going to wrap it up for episode 160 of Crunch Time. Of course, covered a lot. The headliner, college basketball. We are there, ladies and gentlemen. Next time you hear from us, we will have a bracket. We will be breaking it down with our certified March expert recurring guest, Eric Gotzi. That will be a great episode next week. But of course, we talked a little bit about NFL free agency. That's going on right now. We'll continue to get major moves as we as free agency continues, and we will of course update you with any of the big ones we think are worthy of talking about. Had some of the unfortunate injury to Gerrit Cole and how that affects things for the Yankees going down the stretch. But make sure to follow the podcast on X, TikTok, and Instagram at crunchtime_pod. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube. Podcasts are way more fun when you can take in the YouTube version. That is Crunch Time with the N326 duo. But the clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.
Yeah.